Welcome friends. Today we are going to discuss about bearing designation, failure, lubrication and mounting. I am Dr. Sandeep Wangikar welcomes you for the lecture related to this topic. Very first, bearing designation. A rolling contact bearing is generally designated by 3 to 4 digits. Generally 4 digit bearing is observed. If we will go in market and if we want to demand a bearing, then we cannot ask the bearing for its capacity, load carrying capacity or any other thing. There is a bearing designation which generally called as a bearing number. It is very important to understand the significance of the number, what the number indicates. So the 4 digit number is there. We will understand the last 2 digits indicates the bore diameter of the bearing in millimeters. Bore diameter divided by 5, very important. The last 2 digits are not only indicating directly bore diameter, whatever the bore diameter is there, that divided by 5, whatever number will be there, it appears there, or you in simplicity I will say, apart from this language, that multiplied by 5 you will get the bore diameter. Then example is given, last 2 digits, 4 digit number is there, so XX07. So that 07 into 5 you will get the 35 mm diameter of that particular bore or the bearing. The third digit from right hand side indicate the series of the bearing. So the number used to indicate the series are as follows. If the number is 1, extra light series, medium series and heavy series. So these are the 4 series and there may be also sometimes 0 used. So for example X307 indicate the medium series bearing. The 3 indicates for medium. So medium series bearing with bore diameter of 35 millimeters. 07 into 5, 35 millimeter bore diameter, and this third digit from right hand side is 3, which indicate the medium series bearing. Now friends, the fourth digit and sometimes fifth digit from the right specifies the type of rolling contact bearing. Generally 4 digit is 6 and the 6 indicates the deep groove ball bearing. So the bearing number is given 6315. Let us understand this 15 into 5 you will get bore diameter of 75 millimeters. The 3 indicates medium series capacity of the bearing and 6 indicate friends deep groove ball bearing. So in one line if I want to say, I will say that 6315 indicates deep groove ball bearing with medium series having 75 mm bore diameter. So this one example we have discussed about bearing designation. Now next very important type, bearing failure. What are the main types of failure and what are its causes and remedies? So there are 2 basic types of bearing failure: breakage of the part like races or cage and surface destruction. So if we concentrate on the first part, breakage of parts, maybe inner race, outer race, cage or maybe balls. So why it occurs? The fracture in the outer race of the ball bearing occurs due to overloading. When the bearing is misaligned, the load acting on some balls or rollers sharply increases and may even crush them. The failure of the cage caused due to centrifugal force acting on the balls, and the complete breakage of the parts of ball bearing can be avoided by selecting the correct ball bearing, adjusting the alignment between the axis and shaft and the housing, and operating within permissible speeds. So friends, very rarely this first type of bearing failure is occurs. Generally most of the cases you will observe the surface destruction. So to avoid the bearing failure using directly breakage, we have to select the correct type of ball bearing, adjusting the alignment and operating within permissible speeds. Now let us discuss different types of surface destruction. There are 4 main categories: abrasive wear, corrosive wear, pitting and scoring. So let us discuss one by one. Abrasive wear. Abrasive wear occurs when the bearing is made to operate in an environment contaminated with dust, foreign particle, rust and spatter. So these will act as abrasive particles and it will wear the bearing surface. So this is called, comes under abrasive wear. What is the remedies under these cases? provision of oil seals so that these particles will not come in contact with this particular bearing parts, increasing the surface hardness of the bearing parts. So if these particles may be come in contact, and if our bearing part is harder, there will no problem. And use of high viscosity oils. What this says, high viscosity oils, the thick lubricating film developed by these oils allow fine particle to pass without scratching. As the viscosity is high, the fine particles it will not allow to scratch and it will go with the oil. So second we will discuss corrosive wear. The corrosion of the surfaces of bearing parts is caused by entry of water or moisture in the bearing. Very first. It is also caused due to corrosive elements present in the EP additives. There is extreme pressure additives in order to enhance the lubricating properties of the oil. It is added in the oil, but due to these EP additives, the bearing gets corrosion or corrosive wear occurs. These elements attack the surface of the bearing, resulting in fine wear uniformly distributed over the entire surface. So what are the remedies to be taken in this case? Providing complete enclosure for the bearing free from external contamination. There will be no contamination at all. Selecting proper additives and replacing the lubricating oil at regular intervals of time. If we follow these three, providing closure, proper additives and replacing lubricating oil, then this corrosive type of wear can be avoided. Next one is pitting. One of the very common this wear type observed in gear also and in bearing also. Pitting is the main cause of failure of anti-friction bearing. Pitting is a surface fatigue failure which occurs when the load of the bearing part exceeds the surface endurance strength of the material. This type of failure is characterized by small pits which continue to grow and result in complete destruction of the bearing. Pitting depends upon the magnitude of Hertz contact stress and number of stress cycles. And friends, for avoiding this, the surface endurance strength we have to improve, and it can be improved by surface hardness. So either selecting a good material having higher surface hardness, it will enhance the surface endurance strength and the pitting can be avoided. Scoring. Excessive surface pressure, high surface speed and inadequate supply of lubricant will result in the breakdown of the lubricating film. And friends, if there is no lubricating film, definitely it will lead to frictional heat and overheating at the contacting surface. So scoring is a stick slip phenomenon in which alternate welding and shearing takes place rapidly at high spots. The rate of wear is faster. Scoring can be avoided by selecting the parameters such as surface speed, surface pressure and flow of lubricant. We have to select these three parameters in such a way that the resulting temperature at the contacting surface will be within permissible limit. There will be no breakdown of lubricate film and lubrication will be there proper and scoring can be avoided. So in short, we have discussed about these various types of failures. Now friends, let us discuss some about the lubrication in the anti-friction bearing. The purpose of lubrication in anti-friction bearing is to reduce the friction between balls and races. Apart from this, the other objectives are dissipation of frictional heat, prevention of corrosion and protection of bearing from the dirt and other foreign particles. So these are the some of the functions or purpose of lubrication. There are mainly two types of lubricants, oil and grease. Definitely oil having some advantages, grease having some advantages. So let us discuss first advantages of oil as compared to grease. It is more effective in carrying frictional heat as the flowability is more. It feeds more easily into contact areas of the bearing under load. Then it is more effective in flushing out dirt, corrosion and foreign particles from the bearing. So these are the some advantage of oil. Now advantages of grease also there. So let us discuss advantage. Simple housing design. When you will use grease, the design of housing will be simple, less maintenance cost as compared to system having oil. Then better sealing against rust. The oil will not provide this sealing as compared to grease. and less possibility of leakage. There is less flowability. Grease is not flowing as compared to oil, therefore less flowability of leakage will be there. Now we have discussed about the advantages of oil, the advantages of grease. Friends, when to select which? The guidelines for selecting of lubricant are given. When the temperature is less than 100 degrees Celsius, grease is suitable, and lubricating oils are preferred when the applications for which the temperature is exceeds 100 degrees Celsius. When the product of bore diameter in millimeter and speed in RPM is below 2 lakhs, grease is suitable, and for higher values, lubricating oils are recommended. So this indicates, generally I will say, for higher RPM, oil is suitable. For lesser case, we can say grease is suitable. Grease is suitable for low and moderate loads, while the lubricating oils are used for heavy duty applications. And if there is a central lubrication system which is required for the lubrication of other parts, the same lubricating oil used for bearings, for example gearboxes. See, when there is a central lubrication system, we cannot use we cannot use grease, because grease cannot be fed through this pipeline. In such cases, we have to go for oil. The choice of lubricating oil is necessary for high speed, heavy load applications, while the remaining majority of application, grease offers the simplest and cheapest mode of lubrication. Now friends, next we will discuss about the mounting of bearing. One of the very important topic, mounting. So the inner race of bearing is fitted on shaft by means of interference fit. It prevents the relative rotation and the corresponding wear between the inner race and shaft. Tolerances for shaft diameter corresponding to this type of interference fit are given in manufacturer's catalog. Very care is required. Care is required to be taken to select the fit in such a way that it provides sufficient tightness to give a firm mounting. At the same time, it is not too tight to cause the deformation. See, the tightness should be not too loose so that the shaft will rotate freely in spite of bearing, and it should not be too tight so that the deformation will be there of the inner race and destroying the clearance between rotating elements. So this is very important. The outer race is also mounted on the housing with interference piece. The outer race is fixed, we can say, with interference piece to a but lesser degree of tightness than as compared to inner race. Insufficient tightness of the outer race in the housing seat may causes creep. The bearing, in bearing terminology, creep is the slow rotation of the outer race relative to its seating. Outer race should not be move at all, but if it is rotating, then it is a defect. We will call it as a creep. This is caused when the shaft is subjected to external force. It is necessary to position the inner and outer races axially by positive means. There are certain methods to provide shoulders, to provide housing, to provide lock nut, and to provide snap rings. Whatever means we will use, the basic principle is to restrict the displacement of this inner ring with respect to outer ring. So let us discuss first method. An adapter sleeve is provided with a small taper. The bearing is press fitted on the adapter sleeve. Because of this taper portion, you can observe the adapter sleeve. The taper portion, the bearing will not move to right side. This is not move to left side. So this is the first method. Then second method, you can see for both the cases a shoulder is provided for both the cases. So you can see a shaft is provided with a shoulder to restrict the displacement of inner race to left side, and to right side, in one case plate is used, in another case snap ring is used. And last one, the housing is provided completely. One side shoulder is there and another side one cover plate is there. So the housing is provided with a shoulder to restrict the displacement of the outer race to left side, and circular rail will provide to right side. So this is also one thing. So friends, today we have discussed about the designation of bearings, then lubrication, different bearing failures, mounting, care to be taken in mounting, and what are the different methods of mounting of bearing so that the bearing will not move to left side or right side. So thank you very much friends.